Hi, I'm Adam Satariano, coming to you from Bloomberg's office in London. I'm a technology reporter with Bloomberg here, and today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about how computers and algorithms are being used to train computers to recognize what's in a picture and to see if they can in fact learn to recognize what makes a good photo and recognize taste. It sounds simple enough, but for a human, we look at a photo, it can stir up some emotions, maybe make you laugh or other kind of emotions. But to a computer, it's just a bunch of data. It doesn't really mean much. But over time, they can be taught to recognize what's in a picture and whether or not something is good. A lot of different companies are doing this, large and small. Companies obviously like Facebook and Google and Apple, but a lot of smaller companies as well. A couple weeks ago, I did a story about a small Berlin startup named IM, which is working on some technology to identify whether a picture is good and then also to adapt to somebody's taste. And so it's something that marketers and advertising people are really interested in because it might be able to help them find images that they want to use. And so IM started as an Instagram-like service for sharing photos with friends, and it became really popular with professional photographers and photo enthusiasts who would comment on photos and say what they liked and didn't like. And so that gave the company a lot of different data that it could use to figure out what made a good photo and what didn't. So it introduced this service called The Roll, which I'll show you here. And so here is, and so what this does is it rates all these different photos. So here it tells me, here are your best photos of the week. Okay, I didn't take too many this week, but here's a photo. It gives it a score of 88%. Not bad. That was a picture sent to me by my mother-in-law who's traveling in Croatia. You know, she's having a good week. So here are my best photos of the year. Here is a photo of me and my wife on a hike. A photo of my aunt and uncle, different photos like that. But they also have different ways to search, too, because they're picking up different things in there to see what's going on. So it can identify food. Here's my son eating a big bowl of soup. Here is my other son eating some cereal. So these sorts of things, you can train computers to recognize these different sorts of things. So what IM has done in taking this data is saying, okay, now that we can recognize what's in a photo, can we make it in a way in which an advertising company would want to use in doing some marketing? So they went, and their first customer was Boston Consulting Group, which was going and redoing its website. So Boston Consulting Group could do a couple things. It could hire a professional photographer to go out and take a bunch of pictures, or it could use IM, in which they could sort of search all the different pictures that are on the internet, and then IM's technology was sort of narrow in the focus based on their likes and dislikes. So think of it a bit like Pandora. When you are looking at going through listening to a song, there's something that you like or dislike. Over time, it narrows what you're listening to based on what you like. And so with Boston Consulting Group, when they didn't like a photo or like a photo, it would narrow in on what their taste is. And it ended up coming up with some different things that they ended up using. So here are a few examples. So here is their website. And so if you look, this photo, it doesn't seem like much, but this was, work with me here, computer. We're live. And so these different images that they pulled from the IM group. And so it started out with things with the person was searching for things like a young woman or smiling or escapism. And over time, as they rated more of the photos, the service adopted more of what they were looking for. Things became a bit more abstract. In some of these photos like these, there weren't many pictures of people's faces. What the executive at Boston Consulting Group sees this as is being able to set parameters around what for different marketing can be done. So an advertising company could do it. And so that's just one example of how this stuff is being used. You know, different companies are doing different things with it. Facebook recently has come out with new technology around its facial recognition, in which it's gotten so sophisticated with being able to recognize what's in an image. It's come out with a way in which it will dictate to somebody who's blind what is in the picture. It can identify different characteristics of it. That's something else that if you ask someone in marketing or advertising, they see a lot of promise around that because they're interested in being able to do something with that to sell ads around it. Google is doing work around it for being able to identify what's in photos. So right now, a lot of the time when you search on Google for a photo, for the images that come through, a lot of that is identified by the accompanying text that comes with the photo. But as the technology gets better, you'll be able to do it without it. And you see some of the advances that Google has had in a similar photo app that they have, their recent Photos app. So here, they're able to identify different things in the screen. So we can test it out here, because sometimes these things are better than others. So here's my son eating some ice cream. So you can type in this, ice cream. And it thinks that, yep, it got that one right. That's not bad. Is that ice cream? That is. So as you can see, I got a lot of, they got that. So that's pretty clever. You can do other things for like beach. And it gets a bunch of pictures of, identifies the water here, and different things like that. So you can see how it can see the sand, things like that. And so obviously an issue that's surrounding this whenever you get into this kind of image recognition and facial recognition are sort of what are the implications for it? How is it going to be applied beyond some search tools, and also what are the privacy implications? So there's a lot of different ways in which this technology can be used. Defense and military and policing is one way you're seeing it being used. There's ways in which healthcare has eyes of how it can be used. There's even talk of how it can be used in transportation and identifying traffic patterns and things like that. There are also some privacy questions around it. Google and Facebook have faced lawsuits in Illinois about this, about the development of their facial recognition technology. And so this is something that's going to continue to come to the forefront. Apple has has recently announced that they're going to be integrating some of this kind of technology into their Photos app. Because they want to be able to clump photos together. The idea is that as you get so many different millions of photos coming across the web or thousands on your phone, you need a way to organize them, and so this technology is seen as a way to do that. And so I think we got some questions coming in here. Let's take a look. My friend Catherine is sending it to me. She's asking, does this help stop plagiarism across platforms? Will it help prevent the stealing of photos? That's a good question. I think that's a concern of different photographers. This technology raises different issues for photographers. On the one hand, services like IM are allowing people to upload more of what would seemingly be amateur photos and sell them. But for an existing professional photographers, they may see it as a threat because you can use more technology instead of being able to use their services. As for the other question here about privacy, there's a lot of different issues around that policymakers are going to continue to have to work out. To a certain extent, some of the facial recognition technology is limited by the technology. If you were to think about all the different photos, I'm in London where there's a lot of different cameras everywhere being used by law enforcement, but when they are able to see all these images, what happens in terms of processing them? And the processing power and the computing power to do that all in real time, in which it makes a difference, is incredibly challenging, and it's something that a lot of companies and governments are working to try and be able to do. And that's something that I imagine will work its way through the courts over time. As for what happens when this company or these businesses begin to roll out more, you can see more of these different things. With IM, they started as kind of an Instagram service, and they have these different photos, and a marketer can come on here and purchase these different things. And so as they set their parameters, you can set your parameters, they'll learn your taste over time and be able to zero it in. But these are the different ways in which technology is working on this. I really appreciate you guys coming in to join us and listening in as we talked a little bit about how image recognition technology is being used and where it may be going into the future. Thanks a lot for joining us, and come back